I couldn't breathe the moment the video started playing. My chest tightened, my pulse raced, and my throat felt as though it was closing in on itself. On the screen, sitting at the head of our family dining table with a wine glass in hand, was my mother, completely unaware she was being broadcast live to the internet. "Please," she scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically. "My daughter thinks selling houses makes her successful. She couldn't hack it in nursing school, and now she's just wandering through life like a desperate failure." The words echoed like glass shattering inside my chest. It was my cousin Jenna who had sent me the link with a text that simply read, "You need to see this." "I'm so sorry." I was sitting in a hotel room in Providence attending a real estate conference. It was supposed to be a proud weekend for me, a chance to learn, to grow, to celebrate the business I had been building with my own two hands. But instead I sat frozen, staring at the live stream that would change everything. The camera angle was shaky, but clear enough. Jenna must have been filming from her lap, pretending to capture everyday family life for her followers. She had no idea what she was catching. My mother's voice carried sharp and clear. She had all these grand dreams about becoming a nurse, she said, her tone dripping with disdain. And now she just sells houses to people who actually succeeded in life. Laughter followed my aunt, my uncle. Their chuckles joined hers like a cruel chorus. Tears pricked my eyes, but I couldn't look away. My mother leaned back, savoring the moment, as if this humiliation gave her strength. Remember when she dropped out of nursing school, came home crying about how hard the exams were? Pathetic. And now she acts like selling a house every few months makes her successful. Pathetic. The word burned deeper than anything else, because the truth was, I hadn't left nursing school because it was too hard. I left because of her. At 27, I was thriving in the program, excited about my future. I'd always wanted to be a nurse, to heal, to help, to make a difference. And then came the call that split my life down the middle. My mother had collapsed at work. The diagnosis: aggressive rheumatoid arthritis. She needed constant care, expensive treatments, and a mountain of medical bills. I had promised her in that hospital bed that she wouldn't have to face it alone. I put my textbooks aside, shifted into real estate for the flexibility, and poured every ounce of my savings into her treatments. I spent the last 5 years covering over $100,000 in expenses: her insurance premiums, her prescriptions, her specialists, her physical therapy. And she called me pathetic. My hands trembled as the livestream continued. "She just doesn't have what it takes," my mother said with a sigh, reaching for her wine, the same wine I had bought for those dinners. "Some people aren't cut out for real achievement." A sharp laugh from my uncle, a smirk from my aunt, and my mother basking in their agreement. I pressed my palm to my mouth to stifle a sob. For years I told myself her sharp words were just her pain, talking, her old-fashioned way of motivating me. I told myself she loved me underneath it all. But watching her ridicule me so casually, so cruelly, to the very family I had sacrificed everything for, it broke something in me I could never repair. Jenna's text buzzed again. "Do you want me to take it down?" I didn't realize what she was saying until it was too late. I stared at the blinking cursor on my screen, tears blurring my vision. Finally I typed back, "No, leave it up. I need it." Because this wasn't just gossip, it was proof. The drive home the next morning was a blur. 2 hours of replaying her voice in my head over and over, her laughter as she mocked me, her dismissal of everything I had built. And through it all, my chest ached with one question: how could my own mother betray me like this? When I pulled into my driveway, I didn't even go inside at first. I just sat in the car, staring at the folder that sat in my passenger seat. On the tab in bold black marker I had written Mom, Medical. Inside were 5 years of receipts, invoices, insurance letters, and payment records. Every single bill I had covered, every appointment I had scheduled, every sacrifice I had made so she wouldn't drown under the weight of her illness. I carried that folder like it weighed 100 pounds into a coffee shop where Jenna was waiting. Her blue hair glowed under the fluorescent lights, but her face was clouded with guilt. "I'm so sorry, C," she blurted, standing before I even sat down. "I didn't mean to. It's not your fault," I cut in gently, though my voice cracked. I opened the folder and spread the documents across the table. Her eyes widened as she flipped through them, her lips parting in shock. "This is thousands," she whispered. "Over 100,000, I corrected softly. 5 years of my life, my savings, my dreams. All for her." Jenna's face hardened, tears brimming in her eyes. And she calls you a failure, I nodded, feeling the bitter laugh rise in my throat. I thought her criticism was her way of pushing me. I thought she appreciated what I was doing deep down. But I was wrong. So wrong. In that moment, the decision crystallized in me, sharp and unshakable. I was done being her safety net. I was done being the silent shadow holding up her life while she tore mine apart. The girl who once needed her approval was gone, and in her place was a woman who had finally had enough. The next morning I woke with a heaviness pressing down on me, but beneath it all was a strange calm. The kind of calm that comes when you finally make a decision after years of circling the same wound. For so long I had carried my mother's burdens as though they were my own. I thought it was love. I thought it was duty. But really it was a prison I had built with my own hands. I sat at my dining table, papers scattered around me. Bank statements, receipts, insurance letters, appointment reminders, all the proof of what I had done, what I had sacrificed. I picked up my phone, opened my banking app, and hovered over the savings transfer button. For months I'd kept money aside for her next round of treatments, postponing my own dreams, deferring my reacceptance into nursing school again and again. My finger trembled, but then I pressed transfer. The funds slid into my personal savings account. A small action, yet monumental. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, and whispered to myself, this time it's for me. By the afternoon, I was calling insurance companies, systematically dismantling the financial safety net I had built for her. My voice didn't even crack as I explained I would like to remove myself as guarantor on Patricia Sullivan's accounts. The representative paused, confusion lacing her tone. May I ask why? Personal reasons, I answered firmly. She warned me that without my support, my mother's premiums would skyrocket. Her coverage options would shrink. Do you still wish to proceed? Yes, I said. My voice was steady, the kind of steady that comes when you're no longer asking for permission. That night my phone lit up with angry messages from my mother. Where are you? I've been waiting an hour for my doctor's appointment. They said my insurance card was declined. Fix this. Are you ignoring me? Answer your damn phone, SCD. Every word might once have pierced me like a blade. But now I simply set the phone face down on the table, silencing the constant vibration. For the first time in years, the silence that followed was peaceful, not punishing. By Sunday evening, I had one more step to take. I opened my laptop and composed an email to every member of my extended family. I attached the spreadsheet I had kept for years, every receipt, every doctor's bill, every cent I had paid. My fingers flew across the keys as if guided by something greater than myself. Dear family, after much consideration, I will no longer be managing my mother's medical care or financial support. For the past 5 years, I have covered all expenses related to her condition, totaling over $120,000. This includes insurance premiums, medications, specialist visits, and treatments. This was not an easy decision, but I believe it is the right one for me. Attached, you will find documentation of my support should you wish to help her going forward. I read it twice, took a deep breath, and pressed send. It was done. That night I slept without waking, in a cold sweat. Without dreams of unfinished bills or looming obligations. I slept like someone who had finally stepped out of a cage. The next day, the fallout began. My phone buzzed relentlessly with messages from relatives. Some scolded me, some begged me to reconsider. Others accused me of cruelty. Only 2 messages offered me any kindness, one from Jenna and one from my Aunt Bridget, the quiet elder no one ever really listened to. Her message was simple. It takes courage to stand up for yourself, dear. Call me if you need anything. I clutched the phone, tears pricking my eyes because in that one line I felt seen. By Monday morning, there was a knock at my door. I froze, my pulse spiking. Through the peephole I saw her, my mother. Her face twisted with fury, her hand raised to pound again. SED, she barked, her voice muffled through the wood. Open this door right now. I stayed still, breath shallow. You missed 3 of my calls. My prescription was denied at the pharmacy. What the hell are you doing? Her shadow loomed under the door. I swallowed hard, then finally spoke, my voice low but steady. I'm not doing this anymore, Mom. You'll be receiving a letter from the insurance company. Read it carefully. What are you talking about? She demanded. Open this door. No. The word surprised me with its power. One syllable that carried years of swallowed pain, years of unpaid gratitude, years of being told I wasn't enough. No, I repeated firmer this time. I heard what you really think of me, and I think it's time we both moved on with our lives. There was silence for a heartbeat. Then her voice rose shrill and desperate. Is this about money? After everything I've done for you, I almost laughed. The irony cut sharp. Goodbye, Mom, I said softly. Please don't come back. I stepped away from the door as her shouting grew louder, her fists pounding against the wood. But with each step I took, the sound faded, and inside me something lifted. For the first time in years, I felt light. The fallout came like a tidal wave. By the time I sat down with my morning coffee, my phone was already buzzing non-stop. Notifications stacked on top of each other until the screen blurred. Group chats exploded with outrage. My Aunt Maureen's message was sharp and furious. How could you abandon your own mother like this? My Uncle James accused me of selfishness. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in years wrote that I was cruel and cold-hearted. I read them all in silence, my thumb hovering over the keyboard, but I didn't reply. What was the point? They didn't know the truth, and more importantly, they didn't want to know. They'd made their judgment before ever asking me for my side of the story. The only message that cut through the noise was Jenna's, "Don't listen to them. You did the right thing." And then came the one from Aunt Bridget, soft and simple yet stronger than any accusation. "It takes courage to stand up for yourself, dear. Call me if you need anything." I sat there staring at those words until my eyes blurred. For so long I had begged for my mother's approval. And now a single sentence from an aunt who had always stood quietly in the background felt like a lifeline I hadn't known I needed. 3 days later, I found myself sitting in the admissions office at Boston City Nursing School. The hall smelled faintly of antiseptic and possibility. "You've been away from the program for quite some time, Miss Sullivan," the advisor said, flipping through my file. "But your previous record was strong. You'll need to take a placement exam to determine if any refresher courses are required." I nodded, my heart racing with something that felt dangerously close to joy. "I understand. I've already started reviewing my old textbooks." When I walked across campus afterward, backpack slung over my shoulder like I was 20 again, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: belonging. The buildings rose around me, filled with the chatter of students younger than me, but it didn't matter. I wasn't late. I wasn't behind. I was right where I needed to be. That evening when I returned home, there was a letter in my mailbox. The insurance company had mistakenly sent it to my address instead of my mother's. I tore it open and scanned the page. The words confirmed everything without my financial support. Her premiums had skyrocketed, her coverage shrinking to nearly nothing. I should have felt guilty. A daughter watching her mother's safety net collapse. But all I felt was vindication. She had mocked the very sacrifices that had kept her afloat. And now she would finally see what life was like without me holding the line. My phone rang. It was Jenna. "Have you seen what's happening in the family group chat?" she asked breathlessly. "I left those chats," I admitted. "What's going on?" "Your mom is telling everyone you've had some kind of breakdown," Jenna said, disgust lacing her voice. "She's saying your business is failing, and that's why you're acting out." I closed my eyes and exhaled, unsurprised. Classic deflection. Twist the story, make me the villain. She didn't stop there, Jenna continued. She convinced Aunt Maureen to let her move in until she sorts things out. Of course she had. My mother had always been skilled at finding another rescuer when one grew tired. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet of my kitchen staring at the laptop where the video file sat saved in 3 different places. The live stream. The proof. I hovered over the play button, my finger trembling. That recording had the power to expose her, to silence every relative who believed her lies. But as I stared at the blinking cursor, a question sank deep into me. Do I need their validation? Do I really need to prove myself to people who never asked for my side in the first place? I closed the laptop. No, I didn't. I had more important things to focus on: my future, my education, my freedom. For the first time in years, I wasn't living under the weight of someone else's crisis. I was living for me. The next morning, I slipped the insurance letter into a fresh envelope and addressed it to my mother's current residence. I tucked in a short note. This was sent to my address by mistake. Please read carefully. No signature, no emotion, just facts. As I dropped it into the mailbox, I felt another weight lift. The consequences of her actions were finally hers to carry, not mine. 2 weeks passed in relative calm. I studied for the placement exam, and every spare moment between real estate showings, my dining room table was covered in textbooks, highlighters, and flashcards. For once the chaos was my own, and it was leading me somewhere, not dragging me down. Then came the ambush. I had just finished showing a 3-bedroom colonial in Brookline when I spotted them, my mother and Aunt Maureen, waiting in the parking lot by her car. My first instinct was to drive away, but their eyes locked on mine. Running wouldn't stop this. I parked, gripped my keys tight in my hand, and forced myself to step out. "Sinead," my mother said, her voice syrupy sweet, masking the storm underneath. "We need to talk." I looked at her, leaning heavily on her cane, her face drawn with strain. She always knew how to play the part of the fragile victim when the moment called for it. "I have nothing to say," I replied flatly. Maureen stepped forward, her eyes brimming with disapproval. "Your mother is struggling, SCD. Her medication costs have tripled. She can't get appointments with her specialists." "Is this what you wanted?" The words stung, but I swallowed hard. "What I wanted," I said slowly, "was to be treated with respect. For 5 years I gave everything I had, my savings, my career, my dreams. And in return she called me a desperate failure behind my back." My mother's face paled. "What are you talking about?" I met her gaze, steady and unblinking. "I saw the video, Mom. Jenna's live stream from dinner. I heard every word." Her eyes widened just enough for me to know she understood. A flicker of recognition quickly smothered by the defensive anger I had grown up with. She straightened her shoulders, gripping her cane like a weapon. "You're twisting things out of context," she snapped, her voice sharp enough to draw a few curious glances from across the parking lot. "I was just venting a little frustration. Everyone does that." Aunt Maureen frowned, confusion knitting her brow. "What video, Patricia? What is she talking about?" I almost laughed at the irony. My mother, who had been so loud in mocking me behind my back, hadn't even told her closest allies about the livestream. Maybe she thought I'd never find out. Maybe she counted on my silence. "You can show her the video if you want," I said calmly. "Or don't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change what I heard. And it doesn't change my decision." My mother's voice cracked as she switched tactics. "I'm your mother, SCD. After everything I've done for you, how can you abandon me when I need you most?" Something inside me snapped. 5 years of swallowed resentment boiled over, hot and unstoppable. "Everything you've done for me," I repeated, my laugh bitter, disbelieving. "Let me tell you what I've done for you. I put my entire life on hold. I spent over $100,000 covering your care. I drove you to every appointment, managed every prescription, fought with insurance companies on your behalf. And in return, you called me pathetic. You mocked the career that kept you alive." My hands were shaking, but my voice stayed steady, sharper than steel. "I sent proof to the family. Every receipt. Every appointment. Every sacrifice, so don't you dare stand here and act like I'm the villain in this story." Aunt Maureen's eyes darted between us, uncertainty creeping into her expression. "Patricia, what exactly was in this video?" But my mother ignored her, desperation pouring into her voice. "I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but this is an extreme overreaction. I'm facing serious health complications. You're my daughter, SCD. You can't just walk away." I took a step closer, my voice low but cutting. "I already did. For 5 years I carried you, and now it's someone else's turn." I turned to Maureen. "She's living with you now, right? Has she asked you for money yet? Driven you to exhaustion? Made you feel guilty for not being enough? Because I promise you it's coming. That's what she does." Maureen's silence was answer enough. "That's what I thought," I said, slipping my keys into my pocket and turning toward my car. "I wish you both well, but I won't be manipulated anymore. This isn't over." My mother's voice rang out, shrill and venomous. "You can't just walk away from family." I paused, hand on the car door, my reflection staring back at me in the tinted glass. Slowly I turned my head, meeting her eyes one last time. "You're right about one thing," I said softly. "Family doesn't walk away from family. But family also doesn't tear each other down or use each other until there's nothing left. So maybe ask yourself, Mom, who really walked away first." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. For once she was speechless. I slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and pulled away. In the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of her waving her arms, berating Maureen, her face twisted with rage. Some things never changed, but I had. As the city skyline rose in front of me, I felt a strange calm settle over me. Not joy, not triumph, just freedom. A weight lifted, a chapter closed. For the first time in years, I wasn't drowning in guilt. I was breathing. That night, I spread my nursing textbooks across the table, highlighters in hand. The exam was just days away. Every page I turned felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I thought I had lost forever. And when I looked up, catching my reflection in the darkened window, I barely recognized the woman staring back. Her shoulders were squared. Her eyes were steady. She wasn't broken anymore. 3 months passed in a blur, as if life had been waiting for me to finally step into it. I poured myself into studying for the nursing placement exam, working late into the night at my kitchen table, textbooks and flashcards stacked high. My real estate business still demanded attention, but I reorganized, took fewer clients, and hired a part-time assistant to handle the paperwork. For once, the chaos of my life was my own, and it was leading me somewhere, not weighing me down. When exam day came, I walked into the testing center with a quiet confidence I hadn't felt in years. My pencil hovered over the first question and I whispered under my breath, "You belong here." Hours later, when I set the pencil down, I knew I had aced it. Acceptance into the accelerated nursing program followed. My days filled with classes, clinicals, and showings, carefully balanced between lectures. There were late nights, scheduling conflicts, and moments of doubt, but every small victory, every correct answer in class, every patient who smiled when I helped them, reaffirmed I was exactly where I needed to be. The silence from my mother was loud at first, then faded into background noise. Occasionally I heard updates through Jenna. My mother was struggling with her medications, moving from one relative's couch to another. Aunt Maureen, who once defended her, had quietly reached out one morning over coffee. "I had no idea what you'd been dealing with," she admitted, her voice heavy with guilt. "Patricia told me you were difficult, selfish. I should have asked for your side of the story." I sipped my coffee, surprising myself with how calm I felt. "It's okay," I told her. "Mom has always been good at controlling the narrative, but I'm done living in it." By spring, I received an unexpected email from my broker. I had been nominated for the Resilience in Real Estate Award. My colleagues insisted I deserved it, balancing a successful business while returning to school, all after the storm I'd survived. I didn't expect to win, but I agreed to attend. The night of the ceremony, I slipped into a dark blue dress I had bought just for the occasion. For the first time in years, I allowed myself a small indulgence, a celebration of who I was becoming. The ballroom sparkled with chandeliers, laughter, and glasses of champagne. When they called my name as the winner, I froze in shock. Applause thundered around me, my colleagues smiling, clapping, cheering. My legs shook as I walked to the stage, but the trophy was solid in my hands, heavy with meaning. "Thank you," I began, my voice unsteady at first, then stronger as I continued. "The past few years have tested me in ways I never expected. There were days I wasn't sure I could keep going. But resilience isn't about perfection. It's about adapting, overcoming obstacles, and finding strength when you think you've run out. Real estate taught me that. Nursing is teaching me that, and life has made sure I'll never forget it." The applause that followed was warm, genuine, almost overwhelming. As I walked back to my seat, I felt a deep shift inside me. Recognition from others was nice, but the real victory was that I finally recognized myself. That night, as I prepared to leave, Jenna's frantic text lit up my phone. "Emergency. At the hospital with your mom. Call me back ASAP." For a moment, I froze. The old me would have dropped everything, raced across town without hesitation. But now I stood still, taking a breath. I had responsibilities, commitments, a life of my own. When I called, Jenna's voice was tense. She fell. "They think it's a reaction to her new medication. She's asking for you." My chest tightened, but not with panic. Just sadness. And a clarity that surprised me. "Is she stable?" I asked. "Yes, they're keeping her overnight for observation." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Then I'll come after my event. Tell her I'll be there in 2 hours. Uncle Patrick's voice came through the phone, next, stern and disapproving. "This is your mother, SCD. Surely whatever party you're at can wait." I closed my eyes, then opened them to my reflection in the hotel mirror. Shoulders back, chin high, eyes clear. I'll be there in 2 hours, I repeated. When I ended the call, I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel shame. I felt free. When I arrived at the hospital that night, the sterile hallway lights felt colder than usual. I walked slowly toward her room, the weight of the crystal trophy still tucked in my tote bag. When I stepped inside, I found her sitting upright in the bed, a blanket pulled over her lap, her face contorted into that familiar mask of indignation. Uncle Patrick sat beside her, stiff and uneasy. Jenna stood near the window, eyes darting nervously between us. Finally, my mother spat, her tone dripping with venom. "Nice of you to fit us into your busy schedule. I could have died and you were too busy partying." I placed my bag in the corner, the edge of the trophy box just visible. "Hello, Mom. I came as soon as my event ended." "How are you feeling?" Her lips curled. "How do you think I feel?" "My medication failed. I collapsed and my own daughter couldn't be bothered to show up." Patrick cleared his throat awkwardly. "The doctor said it was a reaction to the dosage. They've adjusted it. She's stable." "That's good news," I said calmly. "I'm glad it wasn't worse." My measured tone only seemed to fuel her fury. "This wouldn't have happened if you hadn't abandoned me. My new insurance is useless. I can't afford half my medications. Those new doctors don't understand me like my specialist did. This is your fault." I met her eyes, steady and unflinching. "I'm sorry it's difficult. I know change is hard. But I supported you for 5 years, Mom. I put my life on hold. I paid every bill. I managed every appointment. And in return..." I inhaled sharply, the words cutting deeper as they left me. "In return, you called me a desperate failure. You mocked the career that paid for your treatments. You laughed at my dreams." Patrick looked bewildered. "What is she talking about?" Jenna's voice broke the silence. "The video, the live stream from dinner. She didn't know she was being recorded, but she said all of it. I have the proof." My mother paled, her hands twisting in the blanket. "That's irrelevant. She's twisting things to justify abandoning me." I reached into my tote and set the trophy on the bedside table. The engraved words gleamed under the harsh hospital light. "Resilience in real estate, S.E.D. Sullivan." "I won this tonight," I told Patrick, my voice trembling but proud. "For maintaining a successful business despite overwhelming challenges." Those challenges included 5 years of supporting her financially and medically, while she belittled me behind my back. Patrick's gaze shifted from the trophy to my mother, his face slowly hardening as the truth settled in. I turned back to her. "I didn't come here to fight. I came because I wanted to make sure you were okay. I don't wish you harm, Mom. I never have, but I also won't keep sacrificing my life for someone who refuses to see my worth." For once she had no retort, no excuse, just silence, heavy and suffocating. "I should go," I whispered. "I have class early tomorrow." I turned to Jenna. "Want a ride home?" She nodded quickly, relief washing over her face. As we left, I heard Patrick's low, stern voice behind me. "Patricia? What exactly did you say in that video?" The conversation I had dreaded for months was finally happening, but this time it wasn't mine to fight. 3 months later, I stood in a crisp, white uniform in a teaching hospital, my hands steady as I placed an IV. "Excellent work, Sullivan," my instructor said, her approval warming me. For the first time in years, I felt whole, as though I was finally stepping into the life I had always wanted. That week, a Boston medical journal published an interview about career changers in nursing. They asked me about real estate, about resilience, about boundaries. The article went viral, and Jenna sent me a text, 20,000 views already. "People love your story." One evening as I pulled into my driveway, my phone rang. It was Patrick. "S.E.D." he said gently. "I saw your interview. It was inspiring. And your mother saw it too. She didn't say much, but I think seeing you in that uniform finally made it real for her." He hesitated, then added, "I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry I didn't see the truth sooner." Tears stung my eyes, but I smiled. "Thank you, Patrick. That means more than you know." After we hung up, I stepped inside my home, my sanctuary. On the mantel sat 2 objects side by side, the real estate trophy and a stack of nursing textbooks, symbols of where I had been and where I was going. My mother and I still weren't speaking, and maybe we never would again. But I didn't need her approval anymore. I had stopped chasing it. I had found something better, my own voice, my own worth, my own future. And as I sat at my table opening another textbook to study, I knew with every fiber of my being this was the greatest victory of all. So if you've ever been torn down by someone you love, if you've ever sacrificed yourself for their comfort while they mocked your worth, know this: you are allowed to stop. You are allowed to reclaim your life. And when you do, you'll discover a strength you never thought possible. If my story spoke to you, please like this video. Share it with someone who needs courage. Subscribe for more stories of resilience and survival. And leave a comment with your own journey, because you never know who might need to hear your truth.